The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys!
This is Cowboys StoryLine with Nick Eatman.
What is up? Welcome to Cowboys StoryLine. I am Nick Eatman here. It is Tuesday, February the 13th, and it is officially off-season for everybody now. It's been off-season for some teams sooner than others. We know that. But now everyone's in the same boat. So every football game is over. In the NFL, I guess there's other leagues that will be playing, and everybody will get excited about that, sort of. But for the Cowboys, the offseason has been among us for a while, but we've got some new changes, obviously, and there's going to be more to come. Mike Zimmer officially, I say officially, I still think, I don't know if they've signed the contract yet, but it's officially agreed to terms. He's going to be the defensive coordinator, and now we'll see where the dominoes fall on the rest of the staff. What happens there? What happens with other position coaches? Some that are still under contract. Do the Cowboys want to keep them? Does that somebody that fits into what Zimmer's trying to do? We'll see. There'll be some moving parts for sure going on there. So 888-855-2297. I believe we have one phone line open right now. So, we're still kind of getting into off-season mode. So please join us. We got one caller on the line. He's called a few times. Brian in Kansas City. Brian, are you going to the parade?
Oh, no. I don't think they would want me to wear my Emmitt Smith jersey down there.
I don't know if they'll care who's down there. At that point, when you have a parade, it doesn't really matter. Thanks for coming out. What's going on?
Not too much, man. I saw looked like we lost maybe our third defenses. Is that the third loss? Was Durden the third guy we lost this year? So we lost Quinn
Joe
Witt, and so is that it? Is that all we lost so far?
So far, but
okay.
But stay tuned. I mean, there'll be some. I mean, that's just natural. I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, Zimmer's not going to come here and be like, "Yep, I like them all. Like all these guys are good." I mean, he'll make some changes.
Yeah, that was going to be my question for you. So I'm glad you brought that up. I was just curious. Excuse me. Based on what you saw the last time he was here, what you thought he might bring to the table, and hopefully in the upcoming, month or so, somebody will do like I forget what they call that show, Hit Sticks. I think they call it Hit Sticks, when they do a show that kind of explains scheme. Because, for somebody like me, I always say I'm the Joe and Flower Mound guy that Broadus is always talking about.
Right.
I can recognize some defenses. I don't recognize all this new, some of the most exotic stuff. So I'd love for somebody to say, okay, here's what we were running last year. Here's what we're running. Yeah. What we think, obviously we don't know, but what we think is coming.
Right.
Based on what he's done in the past and that. So anyway, I don't really have another question because you kind of already hit on it, but I do have a player for you.
All right.
Who was here the year you got here, only played for 2 years for the Cowboys. Wide receiver Billy Davis.
That's so funny that you say this. This is funny, Brian, that you say this.
Go ahead.
Because Billy Davis, I just typed this out. I counted 15 players that I saw at the Super Bowl. I was only there for 1 day on Radio Row. I saw 15 former players, and I'm like typing it out. And I was like, I think I might read this list. Of course, I've left it on the printer upstairs, so don't worry about that. But Billy Davis was one of them, and I'm like, I wonder how many people really remember Billy Davis. But that's funny because he was on my list, and I thought, you know what, Brian, Kansas City probably would know him, and then here you are asking me about him. So
that's funny.
No, yeah,
I was trying to pick out a guy that was a little more obscure because he was not here for a long time.
Yeah,
and it was during your first year. So
yeah,
if you got a story about him that you can remember, that'd be great. I'm going to hang up so other people can get through, brother.
All right, thank you,
Take
Brian.
care.
Appreciate it. The only story I really remember to Billy Davis, actually, I think he ended playing for the Cowboys in '98. So I technically started in 99. I don't think he was on the 99 team, but in 98, I was here covering the team. I was doing a little interning and working for Wichita Falls paper and all that. And I do remember an interview where he was like, if I caught 100 passes for 1,500 yards, then I would have the contract or something like that. And they said, well, if you catch 1,500 yards, what does that mean? And he goes, well, it means I'm going to be in Hawaii. That's what it means, And the way I don't know, the way he said it was just kind of funny because think like Noah Brown saying that, you know what I mean? And then here's 1,500 yards or Jalen Tolbert or somebody like that. Going back to Zimmer, if you've ever met him, he's intense. Okay, that's who he is. He coaches that way. That's the way his life is. That's the way he calls games. It's very physical. You have to be tough. You have to have a physical presence about you. He plays more 4-3, but he has played a 3-4 before when he was here with Parcells. Parcells loved him. He didn't think he would at first, but then he did. And then they ended up, he showing some versatility there. And you kind of saw that some with Minnesota, the way they would stand Anthony Barr up at times and then rush him as well. So they could go back if you've got the pieces. See, not every team can go 4-3 to 3-4 because you don't always have the pieces. Belichick was able to do it some because he was able to get his guys in New England to sort of be those type of tweeners that could play both that way. So if you've got those kind of guys, you can kind of do it and be versatile. But he'll be a very physical. I mean, he'll need physical players to play in a physical approach. All right, let's go to a text line question here. This is Josh. He's a fourth grade teacher. He says, what does San Francisco and the Chiefs have the Cowboys don't? My opinion is grit. How do they get that? Well, you get a guy like Mike Zimmer to be your defensive coordinator because he's got that for sure. Maybe you can help some there on defense. I agree. I mean, there's a toughness factor there. We answered this question on the mailbag. I mean, this is kind of an exception to the rule because I don't know if Kansas City has the best football team in the league. I don't think they do. They absolutely have the best football player. He's the MVP of the league. They just kind of like to pass this around to different players. But it's just like it was in the 90s when it was Michael Jordan. He's the best player. They want to give it to Barkley, give it to Karl Malone. That's fine. We know who the best player is, and it's the same here. He's the best football player, without a doubt. Patrick Mahomes, and, I thought the Niners were the better team. I think he is the better player, and guess what? He got the ball last. You could make an argument of if that should have been the case or not, but he got the ball last. He went out and he won the game. That's what the Chiefs have that nobody else has. And the 49ers, I think, have, they've got a dynamic player too in Christian McCaffrey. They are very, very good because they have unique weapons that can do different things, and their quarterback is really good. I don't, you know what I think about game managers and bus drivers. I think that's fine. I don't think that's slight at all. But I think he's a really good quarterback. So, they have, but they went. I don't know if they went all in, but they definitely sold out to get some really good players to go win. And they're going to have some contract issues here down the road. The good thing for them is their quarterback's still making about $1 million right now. All right, another text question. Ron, he's in Concord, California. How do you think Zimmer will use Parsons? It's a great question. That's the one. That's probably going to be the first question to Mike Zimmer, if he has a press conference this week, which could be later this week if that happens. That's one for him, honestly. What do I think? I think he'll play him some on the outside, like a stand-up rusher. At times he'll drop back in coverage. I mean, that's where I think he is one of those pieces that can go back from a 3-4 to a 4-3. I think you just got to use him all over the place. Honestly, I mean, I don't think he will do things much different than others, but it's also going to be how do the other pieces fit into the scheme. That's the key. If you're going to move him around, other guys are moving too. All right, Tim in Grapevine. Next caller.
Nick, good afternoon. It's been a while.
How you doing?
This year. I've been licking my wounds longer than usual because I had the bright idea to go on X or Twitter and tweet that I thought the Cowboys are going to make the NFC Championship. And you know what happened.
Yeah.
Good old fashioned clunker on both sides of the ball.
Right.
And you know what? I said it earlier in the year. I thought McCarthy was a little bit outdated. He got better throughout the year, but I think one thing he needs and Dak needs, we have to manufacture a very good run game. We have to.
Yep.
We can talk about what we need on defense. We can talk about changing coordinators. We could talk about replacing Tyron and add another receiver. At the end of the day, if you can run the ball, that travels. That does well for you in cold weather in the playoffs. It takes pressure off of everybody. I don't know what the answer is there. I don't know what this draft has. But, man, we just need a hammerhead running back. Yep. I'm not saying DeMarco Murray 2014, would that be perfect? Yes, it would. But we need to go all in on that. And then I saw an interesting graphic. So when we played San Francisco this year, we were in zone the majority of the time.
Right.
And we were like, I think in man, let me actually just pull it up. We were in man against him 30% of the time. And we were in zone 69.2% of the time. Well, the Chiefs were in man the inverse. They were in man 65% of the time, zone 35% of the time. Now, it helps when you have an all-pro McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed. And so, but my thing is, with Zimmer, I'm curious, what do you think? Does he run zone, and do you think that suits Deron Bland? I mean, I know Diggs can play man pretty well, but what do you think about Bland, and what do you think Zimmer's going to do? And I'll hang up.
You know what, Tim? Thanks for the call. I mean, I can't say that I remember. I've watched a ton of games that what he was doing in Minnesota. But one thing I know about all good coaches like this, and Zimmer is that you do play to your personnel. The guys you mentioned, McDuffie and Sneed for the Chiefs, I mean, I think that the Cowboys have that as well. I mean, they have those type of guys. I think they have, they have the corners that can play that. They can play man. I think, if you can play man, with your corners, it gives you a lot more versatility to do other things. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Gilmore. I know he says he wants to come back. Gilmore, obviously, he also had a shoulder surgery, so he's going to miss some time this offseason. He's a free agent, so that might affect what his salary is for the Cowboys or any team, really, because it's going to be a little bit before he can be back. I've heard 4 to 6 months, actually. It'll be closer to training camp maybe before he can get back and get going. So, but what do they have? They still have Diggs coming back from injury. Of course, they have Bland. We'll see what happens with Jordan Lewis. So I can't really answer the question on what type of defense he's going to play and what type of coverage he's going to play. But I do think he's got good man-to-man corners. And when you have that, I think that's where it starts. You can do a lot more things with that than if you just were to play zone all the time. I think he'll probably be more of an aggressive man-to-man cover guy. But like I said, the best ones are the ones that can adapt. And I think he's really good at doing that. All right. We got Dan from Philly on the text question. What are your thoughts? I knew this was coming up. What are your thoughts on what D-Law had to say about the Cowboys being tired and gassed during the Green Bay playoff game? Kind of ironic since he's the tank and basically said his tank was empty. Past Cowboys, Pac-Man Jones. Cool. I don't know if we have enough time for Pac-Man stories. He's only here a year, and he's got about 7. I was surprised. I was surprised anyone said it, and then I was surprised that the person who said it was Tank. That doesn't seem like the type of comment that he would make. I don't think there's any way he realized what that sounded like when he said that. I don't think. It did not come off right, in my opinion. That's not really his mentality. I'm just surprised that he said that. And honestly, I don't know if I even believe that. I don't believe that that's what it was, being tired. And he was tired. I don't think so. I'm just going to – I don't want to ignore it. You asked the question, but it just doesn't seem right that he would say we were tired and that's why we lost. He gave credit to the Packers. He said some other interesting things in that next sentence if you went back and listened to it, about him, they're rolling away from him and running at Micah. But all in all, I mean, the Packers dominated the game. They came out and they gave it to the Cowboys in every phase. And, if you want to listen to Micah's podcast, if you heard that clip, I mean, Jordan Love details all that, which is another story that's fascinating. But, I don't. I'm just going to choose not to really go there because I don't. There's no way that that's what D-Law really meant, in my opinion. He said he was tired, that they were tired. I don't believe that's the case, and that's just going to open up the can of worms for that. So I don't really think that happened at all. All right, let's go to Jeff in North Carolina.
What's going on, Nick?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm great.
Hey, it's funny. When I hadn't heard the beginning of the show, and I was actually loading my truck for tomorrow, and I thought, man, it's 2:00, and I dialed in. I got connected on the first dialing today. I can't believe it. So
I don't know. Is that a good thing? I mean, does that mean are we slipping? I mean, what's going on? Where are our callers? Hello.
Yeah. Right. So, but it's funny.
It's off season.
One thing I was going to ask you about D-Law too, and I heard you got the text question, and I kind of feel like them guys, any of them guys that are there that week, they're there promoting something, and I would think, and then he might have been surprised by the question, and maybe he just, and I think it's like you said, he may not have been realizing how that was going to be taken, but you got to remember, if you're a Cowboy, everything you say is going to be construed differently or over and over. But I did like I was listening to the G-Bag Nation podcast, and they had Gilmore and Cooks on there, and they asked them about it, and they said, no, everybody's tired this time of the year. You got to play. So, right. So I'm telling you, we got to find a way to bring Gilmore back, because I think him and Cooks, I was so impressed listening to them. You can tell they've won before, and I think we need more of that to rub off on some of our other guys.
I agree.
And hopefully they'll find a way to get Gilmore back. I know Cooks is still under contract, I believe, so he'll probably be back. But I was super bummed on Woodson, though. I thought surely he was going to get in this time. Maybe he'll get in next year. But man, I just can't believe. And I don't know if you heard the Players Lounge yesterday, but Newey said people he talked to. This is what did you hear that?
No.
Newey said what he was told is that they think somebody told him they think Woodson's going to get in, but he needs to campaign more. And I thought, campaign?
No.
This guy's got 3 rings.
He won't get in. Then he won't get in. He won't.
I mean,
he ain't gonna get. He ain't gonna do it. That's not what. That's not what he is.
But he shouldn't
have
to.
Do it. Yeah. And that's
right.
That doesn't make any sense. Okay, I'm sorry.
No.
I don't know what Newey was talking about or who said that to him. But honestly, that makes no sense. Those two sentences together. He's going to get in, but he needs to campaign more.
Yeah.
What? No. If he's going to get in, then he'll get in. He's fine.
Well, it just kind of goes to show how political everything is getting. Now the Hall of Fame's getting political, and I think Newey also said that somebody said that they thought there'd been too many Cowboys getting in lately. What now? I mean, come on.
Okay.
I mean, if you deserve to get in, you get in.
Right.
No matter.
It means you're good. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for our team of the '90s, they only have 5, maybe 5 or 6 guys now that's in, and then the coach and the owner. But I don't know if I'd even count Dion that much, because Dion played for other teams too. But I'd say there's probably 6 players, unless I missed a few, that are in. And I'd have to go back and look at it. But I think there's a lot more Steelers from the '70s in than what we've had from our team in the '90s.
For sure.
And, So I mean, but I don't know, man. But I was really disappointed, bummed out that he didn't get in. But
all right.
Hopefully he'll get in next year. I mean,
that's right.
All
right. Well, Jeff,
but anyway,
appreciate it. Thanks for the call. You got anything else?
No, I just did you stay for the game at the Super Bowl?
No, I was out. I got back on Friday, so no.
Okay.
I've only been to one, and
it was pretty good.
Mike McCarthy was the coach.
Boring. Most of the game was kind of boring, but then it got Mahomes proved that he's one of the greatest. I mean, it's just So anyway, I'll hang up and let you get on the other callers. But But we just got to keep working on Darren. We got to get him in there somehow.
Definitely.
Right,
thanks for the
have a good
call.
day.
Thank you. You know, it's funny. He said something about Dion as more of he played for other teams. I looked this up one year. You know, Dion actually played for more games for the Cowboys than any other team in his career. If you count the playoffs and everything, he was with the Cowboys longer than anybody else. So I know he gets kind of viewed, well, he drafted by the Falcons. His best year was with the 49ers and all that, but he played mostly with the Cowboys really than anybody. So, you know, he was really good. I mean, his name never gets mentioned for Ring of Honor, but you know, I mean, Haley got in 5 years. I would think Dion would have a shot, you know, because especially when you consider he's the best to ever play his position. So, and Dion's on this list that I just wrote down of the 16 players that I saw, former Cowboys that were there. Sadly, I did not see Darren Woodson. I talked to him on the phone. I thought he would be like number one on the list. I thought we were going to see him for sure, you know, but no, he wasn't. I didn't get to actually see him there. But I'll go over that here in a little bit. All right, let's go real quick here. Let's go a text message from Mike from Boston. Mike, we need you to call, man. We don't have anybody that's ever called from Massachusetts. Not one call ever from Massachusetts. So, Mike, thanks for the text, but tell your buddies or somebody to call. But his question is, how crazy do you think Rex Ryan's comments were when he blatantly said he would not count on Mike Zimmer being hired? He went on to elaborate that he reached out to McCarthy and the Joneses during saying that he wanted to join them and get them over the Super Bowl hump. Yeah, kind of weird. It makes more sense now because he's always been a huge Cowboy hater. Like, you can see it on the shows. He's on the ESPN countdown or whatever. You can see all that. Then it shifted. You could tell it shifted during the playoffs. I remember listening to it. I don't try to listen to him that much, but I listened to it and I just thought, this is kind of odd. You know, he's always the first one. I mean, I thought he was going to cry about the Lions game, you know, when with the officials and reporting and eligible and all that. I mean, I didn't think he was going to be able to make it through the show. And so, you know, but then it kind of shifted. A talented team, they could win and all that. So now you knew what was going on. He was trying to campaign for it. But, you know, I mean, the Zimmer thing took a little bit of time. I think there was obviously some contract involved. Issues there. But also, I mean, there's a window between Friday and Sunday night and Monday that the NFL really doesn't want anybody breaking any kind of news or announcing anything. So even though, you know, it looks like they had it kind of done Thursday, hashing some things out. But then by Monday, now all of a sudden it's agreed to terms. I think it was probably agreed over the weekend. They just didn't want to announce some things because I'll say this: it looks like there's already some new coaches in the building. So there's been some conversations. Like, I think this has been in the works. All right, Rob in Vegas, what's up?
Hey, Nick.
I didn't see you, man.
No, I know. There was no way you could get in. I looked into it, but they don't accept the public where you guys were, so it would be like, no way.
Yeah, it was tough. I say this, you have to walk through like casinos and stuff like that. So, Vegas isn't very fun if you're not being able to gamble and do all that kind of stuff. You know, you're just in.
If you're going to a casino or even down on the strip, if you're not into gambling. Or eating. They got great restaurants.
I was surprised at how many things closed at 11. I was like, what's going on here? I thought this place never sleeps. So maybe I'm not going to the right places.
Yeah, you're not going to the right place.
Or maybe I am. Maybe I am going to the right places, the ones that close at 11.
True. How'd you like Vegas? Did you do anything good?
Not really. I wasn't there that long, and so I was just there for like 2 nights. It was fine. It was fine. But, the Zimmer news, the focus was covering NFL honors, and then all of a sudden it shifted to Zimmer and trying to track that story down, which worked out because they didn't win anything in NFL honors. So and Woodson didn't get in the Hall of Fame. So it was just kind of a trip.
I mean, I thought the game itself I thought it was boring in the beginning, obviously, in the fourth quarter. And, listen, I thought the coach of the 49ers blew it. Yeah. I mean, he put the ball in Purdy's hand a little too much. I think they should have ran the ball more. And then why you would take the ball in overtime, and then it doesn't matter what you do, but once you kick that field goal, you knew Patrick Mahomes said to himself, wait a minute, all I need is a field goal, and you're giving me 4 downs every time.
Every time.
This is done. This is done. And I thought, and then could you imagine if this was Mike McCarthy after the game and the players said, oh, yeah, we didn't even know the rules. Could you? They would have crucified the Cowboys.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And I have some thoughts on that. I have some thoughts on this whole thing about really who's to blame. But yeah, I mean, I thought that whole thing was crazy. I mean, it was. But I just, you give Mahomes a chance like that. I mean, it's basically like in baseball, really, when you think about it. I mean, it's like, all right, we're at the bottom of the ninth. I mean, we want to bat last so we can kind of know what we need to do.
Sure.
That's kind of what it is.
I'm hearing people now, some people on the Cowboys shows talk about Zimmer, how they don't know if he could relate to today's player. And I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, he's your boss. He's your boss. You don't have to like him. And I got to be honest, once I heard Micah Parsons refer to Dan Quinn as like an uncle, I said, nope, time to go. Now you see why this team led the league in penalties, why you would see they would make some bonehead plays. And now I'm glad. I called last week. I said I wanted Zimmer just for the tough factor. I would love to see him bulk up Micah Parsons and make him a full-time defensive end.
When you think about that, I've never really heard that many people refer to that as like he's like an uncle, because I mean, doesn't that kind of tell you a little bit what's going on? I mean, uncle tells you, hey, calm down, or hey, you keep it down, baby sleeping, or whatever. But they don't whip your ass. I mean, that's your uncle.
Nobody referred to Bill Parcells or Bill Belichick as uncle.
No.
And I listen. I like Micah. It bothered me that he had Jordan Love on the show. Jordan Love is basically sitting across from Micah and basically telling Micah to his face, dude, we destroyed you because we knew you were weak against the run. And I'm like, what is going on here? But that's today. I mean, I get it. As much as I like Micah on the field, it's like I think he'd rather be a sports commentator than a football player sometimes.
Yeah.
Unless
his teammate just won an award, at the honors, and then he goes up there and doesn't say anything. I thought that was ironic. Like, this is a guy that has been talking all week at Vegas.
Right.
He talked a lot.
Yeah.
And then they win the Next Gen Stats Moment of the Year. I mean, I know that CD, I guess, wasn't there to get it, but he could say something. So I just thought that was kind of weird. It's like the guy doesn't say anything when you want him to, and then when you don't,
CeeDee Lamb did. I did like what he said. He said, I need to grow up and I need to take more control. And I thought that's what one of the best players in the league, and especially on the team, should say. And I thought that was great. I liked how he talked about his mom comment real quick. Didn't really get it, but said, hey, listen, that's my mom, and I get that.
Yeah.
But I just think Micah needs a kick in the butt, let's be honest. And if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Zimmer. He'll bring out the best in Micah, but I would love to see him put on 20 pounds. I don't want him being a linebacker. He doesn't want it. Get some good linebackers in free agency and put him up and down the line at about 265, and hopefully he doesn't wear out where he's only giving us one sack in December.
Yeah, and he's got to realize that it's okay not to beat Tyreek Hill in a race. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay that you're not doing that. Which I think we all know if we saw the race, he didn't really beat Tyreek.
No.
I mean, Tyreek Hill, I don't...
He's a phenom, and I know he's fast, and that's great, but, you're not fast enough to make up for 300-pound guys smashing on you.
All right, Rob. Thanks for the call, man. Good stuff.
You got it.
All right. We have an article, should be on the website now or soon, about I did talk to Darren Woodson about Mike Zimmer, and one thing that he said is the headline of the article is that he's not going to be their friend. He's not. That's not what he's there to do. And he tells the story. I've told the story that he said in here about how he just basically, said, all right, here's all your bad plays from last year. You kind of, humbles these guys. That's what they need to hear so they can be elite. You know, he wants the great ones to be elite. He wants the good ones to be great. He wants the ones that aren't very good to be good. I mean, whatever that next level is for you. And, you know, he's probably never seen the perfect person, the perfect player. So that means, I mean, he did coach Dion. You know, I bet he was pretty critical on Dion. You know, Dion loves him. I mean, he absolutely loves Zimmer. And that's one story I do remember one time. I remember sitting on a bus after the Cowboys played the Giants in the Meadowlands. It was 1999, and Zimmer was the defensive backs coach. Campo was the coordinator, and Gailey was the head coach. And there was a lot of talk that Campo was going to get a head coaching job. And I remember they had lost to the Giants, and Dion was on the bus. He was I was probably on the wrong bus, because Dion walks right by, and he says to Campo, "Don't take Zim with you, Camps, when you get a job." Come to find out, Gailey's the one that got fired. Campo got promoted and all that stuff. But there's how much respect that he had for him. Let me go back to the play from the 49ers on Shanahan not taking the ball. I thought of it immediately. But I'll say this, and I've said it before. This is not just because of the Super Bowl. I think it's ridiculous that we have different rules for the Super Bowl, or even for the playoffs. You shouldn't get to the ultimate game and not know what the rule is. What is the rule in this? Like, it makes no sense to me. These games all matter, okay? How many games? I mean, they're just showing Jason Garrett up here. He gets talked about. His playoff record never gets mentioned. It's the elimination games that get mentioned, because he lost some elimination games, which aren't playoff games, but we'll just call them elimination games. That's a good way to kind of bash on his record even more. Well, that means those games matter. There's regular season games that matter. This is it. Either you make it or you don't. You only play 17 games. Some of them are very, very important. So why do we have different rules? Who cares about if the game goes long, 20 minutes, it'll be fine. 60 minutes will air on the West Coast, right? I mean, crap, we'll watch it then. Like, it doesn't matter if these games, just make it fair and do it the whole time, so you don't get to the playoffs and no one knows what the hell's going on because there hasn't been a game. I'm not saying the 49ers, you know, I'm not excusing them for that, but they hadn't played in these games, and they probably should have, because you would have had the rule like that. There's no reason why, if the rule is good enough for the regular season, for the playoffs, why is it not good enough for the regular season? Don't throw baseball at me or hockey or anything like that, because they play 162 baseball games and 82 hockey and basketball games. So if you want to switch it up, that's fine. You have plenty of chances to get to the playoffs. But in football, you have 17 games. So there's no reason why these games should be considered not as important as the playoffs. If this is the rule, this is the way you want it in the playoffs, make it that way in the regular season. That's my rant for the day. All right. We have another caller here. We got Scott in New Hampshire.
Nick, can you hear me?
Yeah, man. What's up? I know you've been holding a little bit. How you doing?
Yeah, no problem, dude. I'm just excited to talk to you. It's been a little bit. Last time we chatted, I think we were approaching the Packer game, and the excitement was there, and now obviously we are where we're at now.
Yeah.
But I think, first off, I want to just say thank you. I mean, when we talk about the Dallas Cowboys, I think I can speak for every caller who calls in. There really is no offseason for us. I mean, the true fans, like, we are excited for the draft. We're excited for free agency. Yeah, our expectations probably lower than we had hoped, and we're dealing with a disappointment. Yeah, but I feel like the true fans are still going to be following the Cowboys 365.
Yep, I agree.
So thanks for keep giving us content.
Thank you.
My big question, and then I'll hang up, is when we look at Mike McCarthy, one thing that he's done is he's given his captains bi-weekly. And one thing that we've noticed, I feel like, is a lack of leadership on this team. And even on Micah Parsons' podcast, and CD Lamb were talking about how there really isn't, much leadership, and that they need to hold themselves more accountable. And I'm just curious if that's maybe something that goes into it, is we don't actually have assigned leaders or assigned captains for the entire season, and that people kind of get to check in and check out each week with who the captains are. So I'll hang up and listen. I appreciate you taking the call.
Yeah, thank you so much, Scott. That's a really good point. let's see. I don't know if not everybody's listening, or not everybody. I'm sorry, not everybody's watching. So I'll say that I'm not sure if that matters at all. As I nod my head, yeah, I think it does matter. I think it's a heck of a point. When you have a team that you think there's a leadership void, or you think that there's some not as much continuity as you would need. I thought this same thing when I watched the Super Bowl, when I watched the guys up there, and I don't know if they do that differently in the playoffs, or maybe, who knows, maybe McCarthy has a different plan for the playoffs or how it builds up. I don't really remember. I can't tell you who the captains were for the Packers game, honestly. I'm not sure what they did there. But I see it every week. I mean, every week you go and they're playing the Eagles, and there's Hurts, there's Reddick, there's Lane Johnson, and then you've got, no offense to these guys, but I mean, you've got, some linebacker, or Marquise Bell, is a captain for the week, or maybe it's your long snapper, Trent Sieg, or whoever it is. I mean, and there's a method to it. He doesn't really share it with us, which is fine, but it's just, it seems more like a little league soccer trophies where everybody gets one. Everyone gets to be captain at some point. I mean, that's the way they do it. When my son was playing soccer, it was like, you're the captain today. Like, yes, tails never fails. I mean, that's what you have to do. But I think it goes more to it than that when you're talking about actual leaders on the team. And me personally, I never coached the game in the NFL, and I know I never will. But I mean, I would have a special teams, a captain, a defense captain, and an offensive captain every game. These three guys. And if you want to do some kind of thing where this week it's this guy or whatever, it's the fourth one or fourth and fifth or whatever you want to say, that's fine. You can put 5 out there. But I mean, every week I think you need to have, Dak should be the captain, or Tank or Micah or whoever it is on defense. Those should be the guys. And then you can mix it up from there. That's just my opinion. Is that the reason why they're losing? No, probably not. But you know what? Like you said, it's a long off season, so we got a lot of things to talk about, and that could be one of them. All right, Travis in San Antonio.
What's going on, Nick? How are you?
Man, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Tails never fails, for sure, always. That's the go-to for me. I didn't watch the game. I've entered my crusty stage of like when the Cowboys are out, I'm out. And
so you've never seen a Super Bowl? Like, you haven't seen one in 30 years?
I haven't seen one in probably the last 5.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. It's just, and I think, to be fair, part of it is I get into the draft stuff. So I kind of shift my focus and just focus into that. Just because the last couple of years it's been so brutal that I just turn it off. I'll out myself. That's my defense mechanism. I just don't, not interesting to me anymore. After the Cowboys are out. But the DeMarcus Ware thing,
Lawrence.
Lawrence. I heard that, and I don't know, and I know there's been different things said about, like, maybe he was trying to protect some people or whatnot, and it was one of those things where it flustered me so much where I was just like, even if that's the case, there's some things you just can't say. There's only 2 things in sports, at least from competing, whether it's a local basketball court or a football field, there's only 2 words that usually get guys going, and that's the B word and soft. And I can't imagine.
I can think of some others.
Yeah, there's some others, but those are definitely 2. You hear those 2, and there's usually something going on. And that's, football players are for sure.
Yeah.
You never want to hear soft, and that just, to me, screams. That's what that's what opponents want to hear. They want to hear, like, oh, this guy's tired and he's telling me he's tired. Even if you're on a field and you're tired, you're not going to say it to somebody because they're going to go after you. And that part was tough to hear. Micah, I think he's getting to the point where not against anybody doing their own thing, but it's getting to the point where, like, you just watch stuff on Twitter and he's responding to trolls. He's responding to just like, honestly, me. Like dudes like me. He's just responding to everybody. And I think it's starting to get to a point with him where it's like a law of diminishing returns, where it's like KD went through this and eventually he figured it out. Like you're playing a game that you can't win with the media and responding to Fred or Joe and, Flower Mouth.
Yeah.
But just random places. So hopefully maybe later in his career he'll figure it out that it's just it's not worth, responding to everybody on Twitter. I'm not saying that that's contributing to wins and losses, but I just think it's a waste of his time. But that's just me.
Yeah. It's not just you. It's not just you. It's not just you. There's a lot of people that think that way. I mean, honestly, that's a popular opinion. So when you say it's just me, it isn't. It isn't. There's a lot of people that feel that way, and it's getting to be problematic, and it's getting to be really problematic when you start calling out your own teammates. And I don't know if he necessarily called them out, but he sure didn't come to their defense. And so maybe that's the same thing.
And I know you mentioned this earlier, and I'll say this, and then I'll get off and see what you think. But I do, we've talked about in the past with this team, and I'm not saying I'm not going to be, disrespect. I have respect for DeMarcus Lawrence. I'm sure he's a great guy. I've never had any issues. However, it does between that. And maybe it's just this week with Micah stuff. We need more CeeDee Lambs and less of that type of stuff. And it just makes me wonder, and I hate to say it, but it makes me wonder, like you said, how close is the team? Maybe it's not as close as we thought. And then at the same time, we've said we have the right guys. We say that the last 6, 7, 8 years. Maybe we don't have enough of the right guys.
Yeah.
Just see what you think.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You need more. It's just like with playmakers, we got some playmakers, but you need more of them. You need more of them at the right spot at the right time. This team had 10 Pro Bowlers on the team. They have talent, but it's at different spots too. You need some you can't have a Pro Bowler at every position, but you can certainly try. So the thing. You still there?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, and last thing I was going to say, because everyone's been saying, even though it's repetitive, is Darren Woodson, regardless of the game, not watching the game, Darren Woodson not getting into the Hall of Fame is absolute bull. You know what?
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. So I don't know what they're doing as far as voting and whatnot, but him not getting in it's a bleeping joke is what it is. So.
I know. All right. Thanks, Travis. Appreciate that. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Derek in Seattle. Derek, what's up, man?
Yep. Hey there.
How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good.
All right. What do you got?
I was just calling just two things. One is it seems like Dallas is the last couple of years they've shifted to playing these 7 safeties on the field, and it's killing me because we get ran all over. So just the thought on, they need 2 real linebackers, and then they got to run the ball. And then the other thing is, you always hear people say, oh, they're so far away. So in one off season, you can turn your whole team around. If you hit on 2 or 3 draft picks, 2 or 3 free agents, boom, they're right there for competing for a championship. So
yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. First time call, right, Derek?
First time call, yeah.
Awesome.
I'm a Cowboys fan since I was an infant, so watched all the Super Bowls, but it has been a long, dry run.
It has, and it gets mentioned every year. It gets pointed out every year how many years it's been. Nobody ever has to do any research on that. Like, how long has it been? Like, everybody knows this year is going to be 29. Everybody knows. We get it. No, you're right. Running the ball and stopping the run. I mean, more linebackers, more beef in the middle to run the football. I mean, I just think that's got to be the key. That's got to be the key for this team. And, like you said, you got to have a good offseason. You got to hit on some of these draft picks. You got to hit on some free agents. You also need to have, a new coordinator that could maybe change some things. I mean, think about when Dan Quinn was here. He actually gave you some better players with the guys you had already on the team. Like what he gave you with Donovan Wilson. I mean, he made Donovan Wilson into a really good player, I think, just with the way he used him. And so think like that when you look at free agency as well and say, all right, they signed some guy. Like, who's this guy? I've never heard of him. Where did he play? He played for the Vikings. Like, oh, okay. Never heard of him. Kind of like you'd never heard of Jaron Kearse, really, But Quinn had a plan for him, just like Zimmer might have a plan for some of these guys and how they're going to fit this team. So, Belichick did that for years too, like bringing in guys that you wouldn't think were that good or whatever, but he had a role for them. So you can make some splashes in the offseason, especially when you're changing up your scheme and your coordinator like this. All right, well, I think that's it for the calls today. Open lines, right, Chris? I think unless the phone's ringing, I think we're gonna end it. So it's been a good show for everybody.
I got you a call.
Oh, we got a call.
Eric in North Carolina.
Eric, North Carolina, man. What's up?
Hey, Nick. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing? You going to be our last call for the day?
Okay, all right. I always seem to get the last call.
That's okay.
I just want to talk a little bit about Will McClay. Like every year, he's like highly sought after, and there's always several teams that want to make him GM.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like, and I know, and I've listened to him. I know he's a highly intelligent man. He knows football. He knows talent. But it seems like not every year, but it seems like we don't listen to him. It seems like we listen to the DC, or the OC, and we wind up reaching for players in the draft, and we don't get the best player. And I was just wondering if you have any comments on that.
Well, hold on. Before you go, I mean, like, are you suggesting that? Are you saying that they don't draft that well? I mean, I think this team drafts well. I'm sorry. I mean, even with this last one, they still draft well. And I think they listen to him. I mean, he's running the draft in there. He gets a lot of praise for some of these picks. I'm just not going to be one to say Mozzie and Schoonmaker and the picks from this year and say they don't draft well, because they do. I mean, in the last 14 years, there's been 3 years where the first round pick hasn't made the Pro Bowl, and it was Mozzie.
Yeah.
And it's Taco and it's Claiborne. Everybody else makes the Pro Bowl. I mean, I think they do a really good job drafting, and I think Will McClay gets a lot of credit for that. I really do.
Yeah, I know we draft better than most teams. It's just that when we miss, like last year's draft still stings, and like when we miss on a top 100 player, it just bugs me. Like I'll just throw out like Gallimore. Like I know he's a free agent, and I hope we don't re-sign him. But like every time the camera's on him, I see him getting like ridden out and like washed down the line.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Mozzie. And I know you can pick and choose players. Like I am excited about Jalen Brooks from last year and Richards, the offensive lineman, and Overshown. I think they're going to be good players.
Yeah.
But seems like this draft we're still needing the same players as last year. Like it seemed like we didn't make any progress.
Yeah.
Like on the O line or the D line.
And that's fair. I mean, like last year's draft really did it help you like you would think. That's right. That is fair. But you're going to have to do that 2 more times, and hopefully we don't see that 2 more times. But that's going to have to happen like 3 years in a row before I think, oh, okay, we got a problem here. Because I think when you look at them, how they draft and how they draft in the middle rounds, there was a stretch here where the franchise tag for 4 straight years went to a 4th-round pick. 4th-round pick is getting your franchise tag. Dak got it twice. Schultz got it. Pollard got it.
Sure.
Deron Bland is an Pro Bowler. All Pro in the 5th round. You hit some. You have to hit on some of these 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounders. And I think for the most part, you named a couple that haven't hit, but there are some that have. And I think as long as you keep doing that, and you gotta win on your 1st-round pick. Right now, they're not winning on their 1st-round pick last year from Mozzie Smith. They're not winning. Yeah. If Zimmer comes in, has a different view for him, changes things up, gets him to play at a much higher level, then then you could kind of flip it around a little bit.
Oh yeah, well that's great. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Are you looking for? I know this isn't the draft show, but
I was wondering if you have like 2 or 3 players like coming out of college that you would love to see the Cowboys pick, maybe.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I'm really not there at all. I kind of wait a little longer on that. I let the stories come out of the combine and pro days and things like that. It's just not ever been my thing. There's a lot of fans that are, and we got a lot of people on our staff that just love it. Can't get enough of it. I tend to wait a little bit. I would just be throwing names out there just because at 20. Now, if they were picking in the top 5 or 10 or whatever, and you kind of get a good vision of how things might fall, then I think it's not too early to do that. But for me, at 24. I mean, I'd be surprised if the Cowboys are taking it at 24. I wouldn't be surprised if they're doing some shuffling, trading things around. So it's always a little bit. It's always a little bit premature for me. So I don't really have names for you there, and I probably won't give you some names until about mid-April, maybe right before the draft. It's just not really been my thing. But good news is we got 2 draft shows a week. Tuesday and Thursday, the draft show, and then some of them are going to be going up to the combine next week. So we'll start really kind of zeroing in on this.
I understand. All right. I appreciate you, Nick.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for the call. All right, that'll do it for this show. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll be able to talk a little bit more about, free agency's getting close here, right around the corner. It is next month. It's about a month away now, so we can talk a little bit about that and any other questions that you have. And stay tuned to the website schedule, and we'll announce if there's a press conference. There could be a press conference later in the week with McCarthy and his new DC, Mike Zimmer. So. All right, so for Chris Beam, I'm Nick Eatman. We will see you on Thursday on Cowboys Storyline.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!